The draft is in the rearview mirror, which means it's time to review some people's work. I didn't have a problem with this man not drafting any offensive players, so I don't want any fight here. And that's the way I'm welcoming the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, Brandon Beane. How are you, sir? Good to see you here.
I'm good, Rich. How are you, buddy?
I come in peace. I come in peace.
I come in peace too, buddy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, all that's off my chest. We're good to go now.
I got to be honest with you. I heard it all the way out here in Los Angeles from Western New York. I wasn't even listening to the radio. I heard it. My goodness, you know. I guess you were hearing some things locally there you wanted to address about the draft, Brandon?
Yeah, Rich, it was, it's one of those things. Listen, we just felt it was a defensive heavy draft and it lined up with some of our needs. And, it was one of those things you hear something for a while. And I just think there was a little bit of a narrative being pushed around here locally that we needed to, address wide receiver. We needed to do it in the draft. And it started last year after Diggs. We moved on from Diggs, and I truly understood the narrative. Going into the season last year, people are bringing up, you traded Diggs. Do you have enough answers there? And, that was my point was I thought offensively, we've got pretty much everyone back for the most part. We swapped out a few pieces, which I think are going to help us even more. But so I didn't feel like, that was the narrative that made the most sense. And, we signed Elijah Moore a couple of days later and they're like, see, they need a receiver. It's like, no, we weren't. We're always trying to add talent. We felt in this draft, it wasn't a heavy receiver, like lined up top to bottom. You're going to be able to get, future starters in the fourth round. And so once you got past the first, number of receivers, we were just like, man, we're just kind of adding to, not necessarily upgrading our group. And so that was probably the pushback. Like, why is the 2-hour takeaway to start the day last week after our draft about not getting a receiver versus, we needed D-line help. We needed additions in our secondary, and we thought we were able to find some pieces that will fit nicely here.
I love the kid you got from Kentucky. Obviously, Maxwell Hairston jumped, off the screen of NFL Network at the Combine, and then off my NFL Network screen at the draft. I'm wondering did you notice that he was officially the hugger of the green room? He was the green room hugger because he was stationed at the table that was right by the tunnel that everybody had to walk past him to get to the stage. Were you noticing that kid on draft night?
I was not aware of that, to be honest. I wasn't. We have the TVs on. We have you guys on. We enjoy that. But sometimes we do turn it down if we're having calls with other teams. So I did not notice it. But after we selected him, our PR people and then the local media asked me about it. So I wanted to see it. And so they were showing me, and it was cool. Even the next day on GMFB, they were talking about that as much as they were his play on the field. And I think it backs up the character of this young man. And he was genuinely happy. I asked him when we flew him in, I'm like, what was it? He goes, man, I had the perfect seat. He goes, I know most of these guys. I've either trained with them, I've played with them, or I met them there. And he goes, it was awesome just to see their families, and their agents and their people around them be so excited for them. And I wanted to get in the mix and celebrate with them too.
Well, very rarely, Brandon, will I accept somebody explaining why they're turning the volume down on me, but I understand it. You got a job to do. I accept it. Yeah, you got a job to do. But what did you like about Hairston going into the draft, where you're sitting there at 30 and you're like, we're going to take him. We got him.
Yeah, Rich. Even in our combine interview, I told him don't run that fast, and I asked him what he was going to run, and he said something like 4.2, I think. And I said, well, if you run that fast, we're not going to get you. And dang if he didn't do it. But we were, as it's going along, you just feel that speed, Rich. I was telling the media here, some guys test fast, some guys play fast, some guys do both. I would say he does both. That speed that you witnessed and you called that day in Indy at the Combine, you feel that on film. And I think, Daniel Jeremiah pointed out, just you see a play where Isaiah Bond's running a post route and he's in trail position and Bond's got, a step or two on him, and just the closing speed, that he possesses. He's got ball skills. You can see him play some zone, eyes on the quarterback. And He got nicked up a little bit this year with a shoulder deal, but he was trying to play through it. I give him a lot of credit for that. Some guys with his status may have shut it down, and he tried to fight through it.
And you took the first Sanders of the draft, Brandon. And
yes, we did.
But you traded up to take T.J. Sanders. Why? What'd you like out of him?
Yeah, T.J.'s a guy. Was a big time basketball player in high school. Kind of took up football late. And got this scholarship from South Carolina, Rich. And he's just a guy that's got a lot of talent in there. And we think his best is yet to come. Inside rush, we felt at that point as we started day 2 of the draft, we felt like his inside rush was as good as anybody's on the board. And that inside rush does not last long. And we were, our second round selection, we had 2, our first one was at 56. And we just felt very strongly with the grade we had on him. He's not going to be there at 56. And so if we're going to be aggressive, we stayed patient round 1, got Maxwell. If we want to truly, add an inside rusher, let's go get this kid. We like it. We've been around him, and we think his best ball is yet to come once we can kind of get our hands on him here.
Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Jason Light. What is it like to be a general manager in a draft where you do not have to take a quarterback? You're not even thinking about it. You don't have to think about it. What is that like in this day and age, Brandon?
Relief. That's what it's like. It's, you got to have one. Everyone knows that's why you see teams be as aggressive, just the way we were in 2018 when we knew, when Sean and I got here, we were both on the same accord. We have to, this franchise had been 17 years without, any postseason appearances and really had not had much success at all to the level, of competing for a championship since Jim Kelly and that crew was out of here. And so the first thing you look at is, lack of stability at the quarterback position, which, also was lack of stability, in front office, head coaches. And if we're going to make this thing and turn it around here in Buffalo and not be putting our house up for sale in 2 or 3 or 4 years, we better find a franchise quarterback. And fortunately, we were able to do that. So to have a guy like Josh, it's relief to not have to be in the quarterback business, in free agency or the draft.
When did you know he was your guy back in that day, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, even just watching his film at Wyoming, there was just something about, I don't know what it is. It truly, Rich, this is crazy, but it's almost like a godlike feeling. Like, man, something is just attracting you to this guy. And something about his film, it was just so exciting. And sometimes it was exciting plays that were incomplete passes that he got out of someone that had him, in a headlock, almost trying to sack him. And he got out of it and didn't even complete the ball. And that was, it was just, his tape was, and I think this, even as a young pro, as he was ascending, I'm like, when Josh Allen walks out of the huddle, something exciting is going to happen. It may be for the other team, but he's just an exciting player to watch. And so that attracted me, and our staff to him. And then once you got to meet him and you just saw his intelligence and his leadership and all the intangibles that the best quarterbacks that we've seen in our lifetimes have, just felt all that. And, watching him grow here. But early on, I mean, that first win we were 18-point underdogs at Minnesota, his second start in 2018. And that was the leap over Anthony Barr. And it was just like, holy cow, that was awesome. Don't ever do that again. And of course, he doesn't listen. He still leaps people sometimes. But I don't know. I mean, it's just, I can still remember a lot of the plays of his Wyoming film, even though that's been, back since his 2017 season. So
you can remember the cut-ups that led you to, which is that's yeah. We had Rich, we had a 17-hour meeting one day that we started at 8 a.m. and we finished at 1 a.m. with the Pagulas, Brian Dable, Sean McDermott, Joe Shane, and myself. And we sat in there and we're, because you want ownership to be behind this. And we went through all these quarterbacks of this draft. And we literally watched every play that these guys were involved in, run or pass, and we had already seen them 100 times, but just to kind of go through ownership and how,
how I had it stacked, and we listened to points of views that people had, and that was probably a couple weeks before the draft. And at that point, it was like, how are we going to get our hands on this guy? Because we had made the playoffs the year before, and we were at 21 and 22. We went from 21 to 12. So at that point, we were sitting at 12. How do we get all the way up to the top 2 or 3 if we're going to land Josh? And fortunately, he was still there, and we were able to move to 7 and get him.
Is that why Josh wears number 17, Brandon? Because that's the number of hours you're meeting with?
That is funny. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, hey, listen.
I've had that meeting in my head for years, and that's my dumb self never putting that 2 and 2 together.
No.
You in 10 seconds put it together.
Well, no, my coordinating producer, Mike Hoskins, who's a diehard member of Bills Mafia, just got in my ear, so I'll give him credit for that sort of. Even though there's an I in Rich and Eisen, we're a team here on the
Good
Rich
work,
Eisen
Mike.
Show.
Appreciate that.
Okay. You made his day. Calling him out. Actually, you have no idea. Why do you think while you're talking about Josh Allen, like he had 15 photographs ready to put up on the screen, like literally?
I love it. I love it. There was a good one.
Could be from his personal collection. But like, were you concerned that the Browns or Jets might take him off the board? Like, were you having white knuckles in that draft?
Yeah, I was very concerned. You're always trying to read signals and ask people that you think may be in the know. And I'm pretty sure, John Dorsey was the GM, and Dorsey was a great GM, and still he's done a heck of a job at helping Brad Holmes and that team in Detroit. And I'm pretty sure they were down to Josh or Baker. And so I was very nervous that he would get selected there. And we felt like Dave Gettleman and I worked together. I felt, strongly that he was going with Saquon. The Jets, we had heard, were more in the Darnold camp, than Josh. So at that point, it was like, where can we get to? And maybe it's not a team, right past them that's going to take a quarterback, but I was always also worried about teams, beating us to the punch and trading in front of us, to steal them. So we were trying, even at 4, Dorsey had another pick. He stayed there and took Ward. I had a deal with Elway at 5, but Elway said, there's one player we like. It was Bradley Chubb. And so we finally, speaking of Jason Light, I'll always appreciate the deal that Jason and I was able to do. They had a quarterback at the time, and they weren't in the market. And fortunately, we made the deal with them.
Man. And then just so much discussion these days about, the makeup of a quarterback. And I mean, I remember, what was it, accuracy issues that was the knock? That was the red flag on him?
Yeah.
It was accurate?
It was accuracy, Rich. And I think the biggest thing that it was 2 things. One, Josh played all sports in high school. He was not this, quarterback savant that we hear guys coming out of middle school these days. This guy's going to be the next whatever. Josh, grew up on a cantaloupe farm, just played all sports, never really just played football. He goes to junior college. He's got an email his way. He sends out a bunch of, letters to all these Division I coaches. Craig Bowl takes him at Wyoming. And so we felt like he was a raw piece of clay that had limited coaching from, just your base, your footwork, your arm angle, release point, all that stuff. But then separately, we felt like some of the stats didn't back up the accuracy thing. So we kind of tabulated our own accuracy for each quarterback. If the ball should have been caught, we gave him a catch. And if it was, if it was an interception that was tipped, we tried to create our own stats for each quarterback in that class just to make it more comparable. And when we did that, we felt his accuracy percentage was closer. Not going to say he was up top. He still had work to do. But when you put his DNA and just being a kind of a raw piece of clay, we felt this guy had a lot of potential to turn into what he's become.
Well, I can confirm it worked. I'll confirm it. Yeah, and just not to mix sports here, but I'll do it anyway because the conversation about the big trade involving Luka Doncic with Dallas was that they were not all in on giving him the big, huge contract. And you just awarded one to Josh Allen. So walk me through the process there with you and Josh and the mindset of generationally enriching him and keeping him in the fold in Western New York. Brandon?
Yeah, Rich, he's, it's the second extension we've done for him. We did one as soon as we could, after the 20 season, going into the 21 season, that first big deal. And we gave him, Mahomes had done like a 10-year deal. He and his agents were not really up for that length of a deal, but I would say at that time we did a 6-year extension with him. And we said, listen, if things get out of whack and you're playing to the level we know you can play at, we will look at it and we'll make an adjustment for you. And so after the prior season, we had a brief conversation or two, and we moved up a little bit of money, but we said, listen, let's get through this next season, and we'll look at it, we'll see where you rank. And he had fallen to 13th or 14th, kind of on the quarterback APY pecking chart. And so we just felt, even if he had not won the MVP, like the level he was playing, that we needed to make an adjustment. And so had a lot of conversations with Terry Pagula, our owner, who's been so great to this city and our franchise, just to give us the resources to do what we've done. And Terry was on board, and so it's one of those things. Josh and I had a conversation, Rich, as soon as our season ended, earlier than we wanted, but as soon as it ended, and I said, listen, I'm going to talk to Terry. You can, I'll be reaching out to his agent, Patrick Collins with CAA. They do a great job. And so we kind of got the ball rolling there and found a deal that, rewards him, but I think also allows us to have some flexibility. Josh wants to win. He wants to be rewarded. Everyone wants to be respected, but he's trying his best to make sure it works within our cap structure.
All right. And so does giving him that contract mean you don't have to get him something off the registry, Brandon? Or
that's a good one. I'm going to remind my wife of that. Don't overspend on the registry.
No. If she's anything like my wife, you still have to get something off the registry. And if you're anything like me, hell no. I mean, there's
hopefully there's good booze.
Look at your zeros, man. Plus I guess. Come on.
He wouldn't even notice what I brought him with all the zeros.
What's a gravy boat? Come on. What's a gravy boat? When it comes down to it. Have you seen Sinners yet? Have you seen that movie yet?
I have not.
You've got to. It's awesome.
I need to watch. You saw it, huh?
Yes, and his future better half is incredible in it. Yeah.
I heard she was awesome. I tell you what, Rich, she is as humble as they come. She's done a lot of stuff with our local women, here, the wives, girlfriends, on the club. And I've heard it not only from my wife, but so many other, like, just how down to earth she is for the success she's had. And she just blends right in. And it's a testament to her and to Josh. He's the same exact way. He on his MVP speech brings up our mailman, Slick Rick, and next thing you know, the whole town's behind Slick Rick, which is so cool. It's so Buffalo.
A couple minutes, if you don't mind, more, Brandon Beane. I know it's not your gig to make fans of another team feel maybe a little bit better, but you mentioned Daboll and him being around when Josh got drafted. He just drafted a kid in Jackson Dart. Yep. I guess I'll put it in Buffalo terms. It's not your job to make a team from New Jersey feel better. But what can you tell Giants fans about what Daboll did with Josh Allen and his ability to maybe coach a kid up like Jackson Dart, Brandon?
Yeah, well, I'm sure if Joe Shane made that selection, that I know they went through. Joe and I talked about their process as they were going through it, comparing it to the stuff that he was a part of here, and so I know they extensively did a lot of the stuff that we did with the Baker Mayfields, the Josh Allens, the Rosens, all those guys, Darnold. And so I feel confident in their process. And so if I'm a Giants fan, these guys put these guys through the ringer to figure out if they can handle being the quarterback, not only of an NFL franchise, but of the New York Football Giants and that proud city and that proud team. So, and listen, Josh would stand on the table here and tell you all the great things that Brian did, for him and his development. And Brian knows when to jump your ass. He also knows when to pat you on the butt. And, we obviously, when we're not playing those guys, we root for them, enjoyed the success that we had here with those guys. And you hate to see them leave, but you're happy for that. And I was glad to see, John Merritt give those guys, another shot this year. And it's cool to see them, select a quarterback. And then I'm sure they're excited to kind of get their hands on and get rolling. But if I was a Giant fan, I'd have a lot of confidence seeing the development that he got Josh Allen's career started and off to the success that Josh has had.
Okay. And then the last one for you. Do you ever envision what a parade in that town would look like? Brandon, do you ever allow yourself that moment for Bills Mafia?
Yeah, I do, Rich. And every time I do, the hair on the back of my neck stands up, and it's doing it right now. It's just, it would be, one of the greatest things ever. I don't know. I'd probably get in trouble because I'd probably have my shirt off or doing something stupid, but with everyone else. But it would be amazing to watch this city. This city deserves it. And I tell you, it fires me up every day. And you listen, I hate nothing more than coming in here and talking to the media after we've come up short. We've had some great years, but we have not reached what we're trying to get done and what I ultimately believe we will get done. But it's Rich. It would be get your butt here if we can make that happen.
Okay.
Because it's going to be epic.
All right. I would accept such an invitation. I'd love to see it with my own two eyes. It would be something. In the meantime, congrats on the draft and your downtime that's sure to come once the schedule's out. And if your quarter zip is any indication, hit him straight. Good luck on Amen Corner. Nice quarter zip. I see that. And let's make this a tradition unlike any other after a draft, Brandon. I appreciate the time.
No, I love it, Rich. Good to see you, buddy.
Right back at you. That's Brandon Beane, the GM of the Buffalo Bills, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.